Well, and as usual, the rules change a bit. You can see the 10-point must scoring, the two judges and the referee. Unlike in Las Vegas when we do fights, no standing 8 count, there is no 3 knockdown rule, and as is usually the case, you cannot be saved by the bell except in the last round.
A big night on Saturday night at the fights coming up, and the first match will be a super welterweight battle, and the contestants are in the ring, and we are in the Night Convention Center, and let's go to Frank Freeman, our ring announcer.
Ladies and gentlemen, this bout, 10 rounds, super welterweight division. And the officials are Sam Goralnik counting for the knockdowns, Dr. Billy Yoham. Judging, Stu Winston, Al Walensky, the referee, Bernie Soto. And the principals. From Miami, Florida, he's wearing the blue trunks with the white trim at 154 3/4 pounds, Jeff Nelson. And his opponent from the Virgin Islands, he's also wearing the blue trunks and white trim. He weighs 153 pounds, Julian Jackson. 10 rounds.
Okay, boys, you both know the rules. I'm here to enforce it. When you get them knocked down, the ones holding knocked down go to a neutral corner until I call you in. I want a clean fight. Shake hands and good luck to both of you.
Bernie Soto, our referee, with the instructions. There is Julian Jackson backing up. He is from St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands, and he is undefeated. 14 victories and 12 knockouts. On the other side of the ring from him, from Miami, Florida, with a record of 13-3, is Jeff Nelson. There is Jeff. Naturally, this is the hometown for him. It's 10 rounds. This is round 1. Both gentlemen are wearing blue trunks. The way to tell, Julian Jackson is much the taller, and right now he's on the right. And the thinner stripes, and the darker blue.
Hello. This is a big ring, and this should be uppermost in our minds throughout the evening. This is a 24-foot ring, and for these two fighters, they like it because they're both boxers. They like to move around the ring and use all of it.
Good right, and an uppercut. And Jackson comes back with a glancing right. But I'll tell you, Jeff Nelson is headhunting.
Well, Jeff Nelson knows he's in against maybe the best fighter he's ever fought. I guess he fought John Mugabe his last time out, lost on TKO on cuts, and you can make the case that Mugabe is better than Jackson, but there's a good left hand by Nelson. My point is that Nelson is not awed or afraid to come in and mix it up.
Jackson, being out of St. Thomas, said you can't get fights in St. Thomas, that small but beautiful island. He said you got to use his words, go abroad. He gets a good right there thrown by Nelson, and he's in with a tough one tonight. And now he lands a left of his own, and now a right that stuns Nelson. Right to the head, now a left, and another right by Jackson.
Great hand speed by Jackson, and we are seeing that in evidence already here in the first round.
They've scheduled this for 10 rounds. Another right and a tough left by Jackson.
Julian Jackson has landed some right hands that I'm sure are as good as he can possibly land, and while Nelson has been stunned, it's a tribute to him. He hasn't gone down.
Rights by Jackson, each missed. Oh, that right after the left, and then a right uppercut, another right to the head by Jackson, and Nelson fights back and lands a couple of his own.
I'm sure Jackson saw the Mugabe fight, tapes of it, where Mugabe was able to land his powerful right a number of times to the head of Nelson, and that's what Jackson's doing.
The uppercut by Jackson.
Hold it. Step back. Step back.
Jackson started slowly, has come on strong. Nelson in a little bit of trouble. Jeff Nelson started strong, but as Jackson was finishing strong. Round 1, scheduled 10.
Where do business people
Julian Jackson able to land the right hand often during the first round. That one got to the head of Jeff Nelson.
Live from Miami, this is round 2. That is Jackson on your right, Nelson on the left. Good right thrown by Jackson.
Jackson told me today that he really anticipated the first round to be a feeling out round. He said, I'm just going to box him and see what he has. But Nelson changed that strategy by being so aggressive, and he paid for it.
Another good right by Jackson. Oh, they traded good right hands. Tell you one thing, Jeff Nelson of Miami is willing to mix it up.
Well, he has been in with a couple of good junior middleweights. Also, in addition to Mugabe, he beat Elisha Obed, who is a very fine junior middleweight. So he's been in with some good people.
A right-hand lead by Jackson.
Right now, though, he is having a hard time staving off the lead right by Jackson. His left hand very low, as you see, and he's an inviting target. Jackson from an island that has produced a world champion, and that is Emil Griffith. And he said, Emil paved the road for the rest of us, and I'm just trying to follow it.
Round 2, half over. Beautiful as that island of St. Thomas is, you wonder why anybody want to hurt each other growing up there.
Well, he says that he loves it and will never leave. That's what Julian Jackson says.
Jackson has scored well in the second round. Nelson started the first round, but Jackson finished it. Boy, he has thrown a lot of right-hand leads. You're right, Al. He saw something.
The hand speed of Julian Jackson, which has been impressive to date in getting an undefeated record, we're seeing it very much in evidence in this fight.
These are super welterweights. Under 155. Nelson 154 3/4. Jackson 153.
We should explain that super welterweight and junior middleweight are the same thing. It's just that WBC calls them super welterweights.
That high looked as though it staggered Jackson, but that left did. And there's a right and a left. The batter goes to the left hook. Nelson up. Took a right and then a tough left. That's it. End of round 2. And Nelson goes back to his corner.
It's ironic that it was the left hook that put Nelson down after he'd eaten so many right hands.
Jeff Nelson out of Miami. And let's see that knockdown again.
Well, I mentioned it was the left hook, and he had been so conscious of the right by Jackson that in this case, Julian showed him a weapon he hadn't shown him before. Beautiful left hook. Jackson does a little histrionics after the knockdown.
I think he had it. We're in Miami. We're trying to listen in on the corner of Jeff Nelson, but therefore, thus far, cannot hear what his handlers, Porter, Roll, and Dwayne Davis, are saying to him. I can say one thing to him, and Julian Jackson, he is meeting a man who is for real, even though he's only fought 14 times and had little amateur experience, because the amateur program in St. Thomas is not that big. It's there, but it's not a good, tough situation to learn in. Round 3, that is Jackson on your left.
There may be some doubt about how well Jeff Nelson trained for this fight. He had to lose. He came in at 157 today, 2 pounds over the limit. They let him lose just 1 and waived that extra pound, but his people were a little concerned that maybe he had not trained properly for this fight.
Round 3 scheduled 10 rounds. There's been 1 knockdown. That was by Nelson in round 2. I should say that was Nelson that went down. Takes another good right and a left high on the head. Oh, another good tough left by Jackson.
Jackson is rated 6th by the WBA, and you can see why. He is clearly a world-class fighter.
left back to Nelson. Another right to the head of Nelson. Leads with the right again. Has him in deep trouble.
What was that all about?
I don't know. Bernie Soto stepped in. No count, no nothing.
I don't understand that at all.
They were not in the clinch. Halfway through the third round.
Well, Julian Jackson, is cleanup time for him now, and I would think Jeff Nelson's going to have to do something offensively to get him backwards.
A right cross, a right uppercut by Jackson, almost scoring at will. Another right uppercut. Nelson showing little defense and no offense at the moment. And looks very tired as well as having been hurt.
He's having a hard time keeping his hands up.
Minute to go in round 3. Nelson, as he weathered the storm, another right hand lead. And then a left staggers. Nelson is out on his feet. Out on his feet. That's all. That's all. They stop it in the third.
And I believe it was appropriate, certainly, for the referee to step in at that point. Jeff Nelson, as you mentioned, was literally out on his feet. He was really dazed. And it was an interesting, I think, to see Julian Jackson do most of his damage in the third round with the left hook. And that, of course, was the punch that knocked him down in the second. But previous to that, there had been mostly right hands. Happy Julian Jackson
now 15-0, and you made a statement out. You said clearly a world-class fighter.
Well, I think that this performance demonstrates that Nelson is not the greatest junior middleweight in the world, but he's far from the worst. And we will see Jackson with that left hook that really hurt Jeff Nelson. And at this point, he was in all kinds of trouble, just unable to defend himself. Look at Jackson. He doesn't even want to punch. And the referee appropriately steps in.
Thank you. Now let's go back again to Frank Freeman.
The time, 2 minutes, 31 seconds of the third round. Referee stops the bout. Winner by a TKO, Julian Jackson.
So Julian Jackson of St. Thomas and the Virgin Islands has come to the mainland and has recorded his 15th win, his 13th knockout of his young career. But he's a comer.